I was brushing my teeth when the frantic knocking started. The sound echoed through my quiet house like gunshots, urgent and desperate. My heart jumped into my throat as I rushed to the front door. Nothing good ever comes from visitors at 11:30 at night. When I opened the door, my world tilted sideways. Emily stood there, trembling, her auburn hair tangled and wild around her shoulders. Her green eyes were red-rimmed and wide with terror. Mascara had streaked down her freckled cheeks in dark rivulets. Dirt smudged her clothes and hands like she'd been crawling through mud. Her petite frame shook so violently, I thought she might collapse. But it was the blood on her sleeve that made my stomach drop. A dark stain that definitely wasn't hers. "Mum, I never meant for this to happen." The words tumbled from her lips over and over like a broken prayer. Her hands were ice cold when I reached for her. She flinched at my touch, but didn't pull away. I pulled her inside, my mind racing through terrible possibilities. What had my 17-year-old daughter done? Emily collapsed onto my couch, still shaking. I wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and tried to keep my voice calm. "Honey, what happened? Where have you been?" I asked gently, sitting beside her on the cushions. She just stared at the coffee table, her lips moving soundlessly. Whatever had happened, it had shuttered something inside her. "Someone got hurt," she finally whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. Her voice was hollow and distant. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She looked at me then, and the pain in her eyes was unbearable. I wanted to demand answers, to shake the truth from her, but something in her expression warned me to wait. Every instinct screamed at me to call someone. The police, a doctor, her father who lived across town. But Emily's terror felt fragile, like it might shatter if I moved too quickly. She needed safety first, answers later. I helped her upstairs to her old bedroom, the one she'd barely used since starting her senior year. Tonight, she was my little girl again. I couldn't sleep. I kept checking on Emily, listening to her toss and turn in the darkness above me. The blood on her sleeve haunted my thoughts. Whose was it? How much was there originally? By dawn, I'd made coffee and unmade it 3 times. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I waited for her to wake up. Emily came downstairs looking like a ghost. Her auburn hair hung limp, and those green eyes seemed hollow. "I was at Adam's house," she said before I could ask. Her voice sounded rehearsed, careful. Adam, her best friend since middle school, the boy with the bright smile and dimpled cheek. What did he have to do with this? "He tripped," Emily said, staring at her untouched cereal. "Down the stairs. There was blood everywhere." Her words felt scripted, like she'd practiced them in the mirror. The confidence from yesterday's terror was gone, replaced by something calculated. "Why didn't you call an ambulance?" I asked gently. The question hung in the air like smoke. "I did," she said quickly. Too quickly. "I mean, someone did. His mum, I think." But her eyes darted away when she said it. My daughter had always been a terrible liar. "Emily, honey, I need you to tell me exactly what happened." I reached across the table for her hand. "He fell," she corrected herself, pulling her hand away. "Not tripped. He was coming down the stairs and just collapsed." The story was already changing. Yesterday's accident was becoming today's medical emergency. I noticed the small cut on her palm, shaped oddly like a splinter, like she'd grabbed something wooden that broke in her grip. My phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. Adam's mother had posted something, and my stomach clenched as I read it. "Please keep our family in your prayers. Adam is in the hospital, unconscious. We don't know when he'll wake up." Emily went white when I showed her the screen. Her hands started trembling again, just like last night. "They can't talk to me," Emily said suddenly, grabbing my arm. Her nails dug into my skin through my sweater. "Who can't talk to you?" I asked, but she was already spiraling into that same terror from last night. "The police. Anyone. Mom, promise me you won't let them." Her green eyes were wild with desperation. I looked at my daughter more carefully now. Really looked. The dirt on her shoes was fresh, like garden soil. But she'd said she was inside Adam's house all evening. Why would her shoes be dirty? And her car keys, the ones with the little soccer ball keychain Adam had given her. They weren't in her purse or pockets. Maybe we should call the school counselor, I suggested carefully. Mr. Hartwell always said you could talk to him about anything. Emily's reaction was immediate and violent. She jerked backward like I'd slapped her. The color drained from her face completely. No, she whispered. Not him. Never him. Something was very wrong here. My daughter was lying, but she was also terrified of the truth. I made a decision that would change everything. I'm going to Adam's house, I announced, grabbing my car keys. Emily shot up from her chair. Mum, no, you can't. Please don't go there. But I was already heading for the door. My daughter was in trouble, and I needed to understand what kind. The drive to Adam's house felt endless. My hands gripped the steering wheel as my mind raced through possibilities. None of them were good. None of them explained the blood, the lies, or Emily's bone-deep terror. Adam's house looked normal from the street. A modest 2-story with blue shutters and a well-kept lawn. But as I walked up the front path, details emerged that made my skin crawl. The front steps had dark stains. More blood than Emily had described. Much more, and it wasn't contained to one spot. There was a trail leading down the steps, like someone had been dragged, or had fallen and kept bleeding. The wooden railing had fresh gouges in it, scratches that looked like fingernail marks. Pieces of a lamp lay scattered near the door, the ceramic fragments ground into the concrete porch. Part of the landing had been scrubbed recently. I could see the clean spots among the stains. But whoever did it had given up halfway through, or been interrupted, or simply didn't have time to finish. This wasn't a simple fall down the stairs. This was violence, and someone had tried to hide it. I remembered Emily's missing car keys and walked around to the back of the house. Her small blue Honda was there, hidden behind garbage cans. Why would she hide her car? And why were her keys missing if the car was here? My hands shook as I tried the door handle. Locked, but I kept spare keys to her car for emergencies. The car told a story Emily hadn't. Her keys were tucked under the driver's seat, like she'd hidden them quickly. A blood-stained sweater lay crumpled in the back, the same deep red that had been on her sleeve last night. And there was something else, a piece of paper crumpled and shoved into the cup holder like trash. I smoothed out the paper with trembling fingers. It was a note, written in Emily's handwriting. Mr. Hartwell, 8 p.m., Adam's house. The words were like ice water in my veins. Why was the school counselor meeting Emily and Adam? And why hadn't she mentioned this? As I stood there, staring at the note, the hair on my neck stood up. Someone was watching me. I looked around quickly, but the neighboring houses seemed empty. Still, the feeling persisted. I needed to get out of here, fast. Whatever had happened, I was getting too close to something dangerous. Every step felt exposed. My keys jangled too loudly in the quiet neighborhood. A curtain twitched in a house across the street. Or maybe I imagined it. My nerves were completely shot. I reached my car and fumbled with the door lock, desperate to escape the weight of unseen eyes. A small piece of paper was tucked under my wiper blade. My blood turned to ice as I unfolded it. Keep your daughter quiet. You don't know what she saw. The words were printed in block letters. Someone had been watching. Someone knew I'd been investigating. Someone was scared of what Emily might say. I drove home, breaking every speed limit, my heart hammering against my ribs. The note sat on my passenger seat like a bomb. Emily was still in her room when I got back. She looked up hopefully when I entered. "Did you find anything?" she asked quietly. The questions felt loaded with meaning. I showed her the note. Emily's face crumpled as she read it, and she started crying again. "Mom, he was there," she whispered through her tears. "Mr. Hartwell, he followed us." Finally, My daughter was ready to tell me the truth. He said he could fix Adam, Emily said, her voice barely audible. Adam was upset about something, and Mr. Hartwell said he knew how to help. She was sitting on her bed, hugging her knees, still so small, still so young. I didn't think he would hurt him. I swear, Mum. I thought he was trying to help. What happened to Adam? I asked gently, sitting beside her on the bed. Mr. Hartwell got angry when Adam wouldn't listen to him. He pushed him, and Adam fell down the stairs. And then, I prompted when she fell silent. Adam was bleeding so much. Mr. Hartwell told me to leave, that he would handle it, that he could fix everything. Emily's voice broke completely. I was so scared, I just ran. I left Adam there bleeding. The guilt in her voice was devastating. My poor daughter had been carrying this alone. He's been meeting with us for months, Emily continued. Said he was helping us with college stress and life decisions. But something in her tone suggested it had been more manipulative than helpful. He always said we could trust him with anything, that he understood us better than our parents did. Adam wanted to stop the meetings. He said Mr. Hartwell was getting too involved in our personal lives. Emily looked at me with those haunted green eyes. Mr. Hartwell didn't like that. He got really angry. That's when he pushed Adam? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I tried to help Adam, but Mr. Hartwell told me to leave. He said if I told anyone, no one would believe me. So you took your car and hid it behind the house? I was putting the timeline together. I walked home. I was too scared to drive. I kept thinking he might follow me. I held my daughter as she cried, but my mind was already moving ahead. This had gone far beyond what we could handle alone. Emily, we have to call the police, I said gently. Adam is still in the hospital. Mr. Hartwell needs to be stopped. She nodded against my shoulder, exhausted from carrying this secret. The police took our statements seriously, especially when I showed them the threatening note. Detective Morrison was kind but thorough. Emily told her story again, this time with all the details. We'll need to investigate further, he said. But this gives us enough to start asking questions. Within hours, police were at Adam's house collecting evidence. They found more blood than Emily had described. They also found Adam's blood on the wooden railing, matching the cut on Emily's palm. She tried to catch him as he fell. The broken lamp pieces told a story of violence, not accident. A woman across the street came forward when she saw the police cars. I saw Mr. Hartwell's car there that night, she told Detective Morrison. He was circling the block for a while before he parked. What time was this? The detective asked. Around 9:30, the neighbor replied. I remember, because my show had just ended. A police pulled security footage from nearby businesses. Mr. Hartwell's car was clearly visible, just as the neighbor had described. And the timestamp showed he was there after Emily had already left on foot. The call came 3 days later. Adam had woken up and was asking to speak with police. Emily and I rushed to the hospital, both terrified and hopeful. Adam looked pale and fragile, but his blue eyes were clear when he saw Emily. Emily tried to help me, Adam told Detective Morrison. His voice was weak but determined. She wanted to leave before things got bad. I should have listened to her. What happened after Emily left? The detective asked gently. Mr. Hartwell said he could make it look like an accident, that no one would ever know what really happened. Adam's testimony corroborated everything Emily had said. He'd been conscious long enough to hear Mr. Hartwell's plans. He only passed out when he realized Emily might tell someone, Adam continued. Mr. Hartwell was arrested at the school the next morning. His thin frame and wire-rimmed glasses made him look harmless, but the evidence was overwhelming. Blood, fingerprints, testimony, and that threatening note. He'd been manipulating students for years, Detective Morrison told us later. Other students came forward once news of the arrest spread. Mr. Hartwell had been using therapy sessions to control and manipulate vulnerable teenagers. Emily and Adam weren't his first victims, just his most recent ones. He made us feel like we needed him, Emily told me, like we couldn't handle life without his guidance. Emily started seeing a real therapist, one recommended by the hospital's victim services. It would take time to undo the psychological damage Mr. Hartwell had done. But my daughter was strong, and she was finally free to heal. Adam's physical recovery was slow but steady. The emotional healing would take longer for both of them. But they had each other, and they had the truth finally out in the open. The friendship that had nearly been destroyed by one man's manipulation was growing stronger. Mr. Hartwell's trial made local news. Emily had to testify, but she was ready. "I'm not ashamed anymore," she told me the morning of her testimony. He was the adult. He was supposed to help us, not hurt us. The jury found Mr. Hartwell guilty on all counts: assault, manipulation of minors, and witness intimidation. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison and permanently banned from working with children. It felt like we could finally breathe again. I learned something important through this nightmare. Sometimes our children's silence isn't guilt. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes they need us to dig deeper, to look beyond the surface. Emily wasn't hiding because she was guilty of hurting her friend. She was hiding because a trusted adult had betrayed her and threatened her into silence. The night she collapsed into my arms wasn't the night she'd done something terrible. It was the night she'd finally escaped from someone who had. Months later, Emily graduated high school with honors. Adam was there, healthy and smiling. They both planned to attend college in the fall, finally free to make their own decisions. The scars were still there, but they were healing. I kept that threatening note as a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones we're supposed to trust. Emily is stronger now, more confident in her own judgment. She knows the difference between help and manipulation. My daughter didn't show up at my door that night because she'd hurt someone. She showed up because someone had hurt her friend and threatened her into silence. The blood on her sleeve wasn't from violence she committed, but violence she'd witnessed and tried to stop. The real monster wasn't my frightened 17-year-old daughter. It was the 38-year-old man who'd spent months earning her trust just to abuse it. Emily was never the problem. She was the solution, the witness who brought down a predator. That night changed us both forever, but it also taught us something valuable. Trust, real trust, isn't blind faith. It's supporting each other even when we don't understand everything. Emily trusted me enough to come home when she was terrified. I trusted her enough to dig for the truth instead of accepting easy answers.